China's social media platforms rush to abide by AI-generated content labeling laws. So there's a law, this isn't just a recommendation, this is a law requiring explicit and implicit labels for AI-generated text, images, audio, video, and other virtual content. The law, which was issued back in March, so they've had 9 months to get ready. Explicit markings must be clearly visible to users. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Oh, wow, we are moving through the year. We only have a few months left. We're in the final third of the year. I got my maths right. Yes, the final third of the year. So in the final sprint. I was just in Sweden last week and I saw the transition from summer to autumn, and I've just got back to London as of yesterday, and it is grey and it is cold and it was raining, so it feels like we are very much in that stretch heading towards the cold and the dark. Obviously, if you're watching this from somewhere sunny elsewhere in the world, good for you, you've made the right choice. But yeah, it feels like we're coming to the end of the year. So if you are working on projects, this is the time to really push on them, because otherwise, and this has happened to me multiple times, and I'm sure it's happened to you as well, it's very easy to get to a point where suddenly any project, any business you're trying to build, anything that you're trying to launch, it suddenly becomes next year. Suddenly it's, oh, okay, it's going to be the holiday period and it gets a bit busy and we have to see family, etc. All of that will mean that everything gets pushed back to January, and then we start the cycle all over again. So I actually see this time, September through to the end of the year, I like to think of this as a time to get some work done. For a lot of you, kids will be back at school as of yesterday. I'm actually going to talk about school in China in particular, because they have just started to do AI lessons starting yesterday. The 1st of September has kicked it in China, so we're going to be talking about school kids. But it is very much a time to get some stuff done before the end of the year, and we are running out of time. That's fine. Humans work well with deadlines. Humans work well when we are up against something. Let's jump straight into the live. It is Tuesday, the 2nd of September. This is AI with Kyle. I'm going to be running through the daily news and updates from the world of artificial intelligence, as well as taking questions from our lovely audience, primarily on TikTok, although we've started to get questions from YouTube as well, which is really exciting. YouTube is new for me. I've only got, I think, 3,000 subscribers or so. I got the permission to monetize a few days ago, which is a big kind of milestone in growing a YouTube channel. So that's exciting, but it's still very slow. So primarily the live questions are over on TikTok. And good morning, everyone on TikTok. Good to see you all. I am also doing, you may have missed it yesterday, I've started to do a secondary live stream where I am building a business from scratch. And the basic idea is I come up with a business idea and I vibe code it, I work out the marketing and then launch it. And I'm going to do that within 30 days. I'm on day 2. So I started yesterday. You can see the recording. And the basic idea is that I'm going to only allow myself an hour a day, which gives me 30 days to get this done. Sorry, 30 days, 30 hours to get this done. The reason being, there's no use me spending 8 hours a day building up a product, launching it and turning it into a new business, and then saying to you guys, hey, here you go, you can do this too, because I know lots of you have 9-to-5 jobs, or you have kids, or you have other commitments, so it is not realistic. So what I'm trying to do, and I'm challenging myself to do this, and this is hard because I love to tinker with these things, I'm only spending an hour a day on this project and then stepping away from it, which was really hard after yesterday's live because I wanted to continue building. But I was like, no, we're going to do it live on stream. So again, today and for the next 30 days, there is going to be a new live stream, which is me building and describing what it is that I'm building, how I'm doing things, my thought process, basically going through the kind of the building process, but also trying to educate at the same time, which we'll work out the balance. But I've only done one so far, so there's a lot of room for improvement, but hopefully you can join me on that later. I'll probably do it directly after this live, but I will cut this live and then move over to the next one. Awesome. Let's hop into the news. We've got a few things today. The big one is in China. So China has pushed through a bunch of social programs to do with artificial intelligence. Quite a lot, actually. We're going to cover 2 in particular. One is about AI education in schools. It's become mandatory. The kids are being taught how to use AI. And the second is about the watermarking system. I created images and video now need to be watermarked in China. And this is a governmental decision. So this is something that we might be doing in the West. We have not. Nobody's got their act together enough, but that has come into play yesterday in China as well. So we're going to look at both of those. I wanted to start first though with something fun, which I missed from last week because I was away, so I wasn't able to cover. But this, I don't know if anyone's seen it. Tell me if you've seen it. The Will Smith, what is it? It's like a tour video. It's, yeah, a tour video. So Will Smith, the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, is going on tour. Sure, why not? Go for it. Go for it, Will. But he's put out this video and it's very obviously AI generated and people can't quite understand what's going on and whether Will Smith knew that it's AI generated and it's a joke, or he's lost a touch with reality and doesn't realize people won't know. I'm going to play it on the main feed on YouTube, but if you're on TikTok, definitely go and have a look at this. This video is very obviously AI generated. Like, it's not even good AI video. So the hands are still bad. If you look in the background, that you can see blurred faces because you're looking at crowds of people. So generally the one in the foreground looks okay, but then you go back and there's 10, 20, 100 people behind and they all have those smeared faces from AI. There's this man at the bottom here. He seems to be glitching through a railing and he's got his head nestled in another man's crotch while he holds his wife. Like, the whole thing is very obviously AI generated, but Will Smith has put out this video. There were some other weird things in it. Let me try and find it. There was a kid holding up a sign saying, "From West Philly to West something, we love you, Willie." Okay, the text doesn't look very good either. "Too bad weather, people at Paleo tonight will be a storm." I don't know what that means. "Love you, Fresh Prince." Okay, but the S is wrong because it's AI generated. So this video is an absolute, I can't say that. It's an absolute mess, let's say it that way. Now, this is a story about how you changed my son's life. Can he come on stage, please? Like, it is spectacularly bad. But for some reason, Will Smith has put out this image or this video and is expecting everyone to get hyped. And the only thing anyone is talking about is how badly generated this is. I don't know if he's put out a statement about this because this was 5 days ago. I'm sure the play will be simply to say, "Oh, it wasn't me, it was my team." That's going to be the easy thing to do. But it's interesting to see such a large public figure putting out a video like this and I guess expecting his audience not to know, which doesn't really say very much. Look at this crowd detail. Absolute monstrosity. It's beautiful. It's worth looking up if you can't see it right now, because you can zoom in on any kind of frame and you will see the monstrosities, those AI monstrosities in the background, the twisted faces like we used to have a few years ago. So it's not even a good AI video. So I thought it was very interesting and I don't know what he's thinking or how he thinks he's going to get away with this. Just going to hop over to some questions. Good morning. Hey, Aurora. Eric, sorry, yeah, a fan is running in the background. So that is, I have to put a fan on my camera. There's not much I can do about that with the, what I'll do for the next stream, I'll try and move the phone away from the camera. The purpose of it is to keep the main camera, the YouTube camera, cool, which I know is very frustrating, but unfortunately it's a 4K 60 camera and it basically melts if I leave it on for an hour during the stream. Sorry, I will see what I can do about that tomorrow, but unfortunately it's just not quite the right camera, which is very annoying. Oh, thank you, Aurora. Just checking for questions. Cool. Not seeing any at the moment. Before we look at the China news, which is very cool stuff, I wanted to do a quick update on the suicide. So there was a suicide of a young man called Adam Rain, which made news last week, because Adam had been talking to ChatGPT and the parents of Adam are now suing OpenAI, saying that ChatGPT led to this young man's death. Whether or not that is true or not is going to be debated in the courts. There are arguments that could be made on both sides. That's not what I'm here to do. What I wanted to point out, though, and discuss today is OpenAI are now adding parental controls. So specifically, they are going to be giving the parents options to gain more insight into and shape how their teens use ChatGPT. They're going to be introducing parental controls and is considering additional safeguards, the company said in a blog on last week. We don't know exactly what they are specifically, but we've got things like, they said they're exploring features like an emergency contact who can be reached with a one-click message within ChatGPT, as well as opt-in features allowing the chatbot itself to reach out to these contacts in severe cases. Now, obviously, the difficulty with this is it requires the teen or the young or the vulnerable person to turn those things on unless the parent is tech savvy enough to turn those things on the teenager's device beforehand. These are the kind of problems we've had with the internet and access to content on the internet as well, is it requires parents to know more than their teenagers generally, because otherwise kids and teenagers are either going to find their way around blocks or disable them, or more likely the parent just won't know that these options exist. So we've had this issue with harmful content. We've had it for decades with the internet, and we've had things like Net Nanny, for example. If you're old like me, you'll probably remember that. But different solutions to try to make the internet and to try to make these technologies safer for kids and teenagers. It always requires the parent to know what they're doing. That is the main problem, and parents tend to lag behind their teenagers. Remember that teenagers have an awful lot of time on their hands to circumvent safeguards like this. That said, it's good that ChatGPT are making motions in this direction. We'll see what it actually ends up being. Interestingly, Grok has parental controls. It has the baby Grok mode. You can turn it on inside the Grok app, which is meant to make Grok not just, it's meant to make it very safe for children. It's a weird, I don't know why you'd give your kid Grok in the first place, because Grok is the most not safe for work of the large language models, sorry, the main models out there. So it seems like a strange one to give to a child, but at least they did add a toggle in, which allows you to make it more child friendly. Looks like ChatGPT is going in that particular direction. It's always going to be a balance between how many more guardrails you put in and the user experience, because I know I'm envisioning the Reddit for this already. People will throw a fit if they add too many safeguards and guardrails, because some people see that as censorship. Where you land on this really depends on your own ethics and your own morals and your own sense of freedom versus protection. And I'm not going to say which is better. Obviously, I have my own opinions, but everyone's going to have different ones. But it looks like ChatGPT are adding some kind of protections. Whether or not they're going to be valuable, I don't know. We do need to remember, with all of this, with the suicide, there was apparently a murder, which has now been attributed to ChatGPT as well. We do need to remember, with all of these terrible stories that happen, there are 700 million active users on ChatGPT, which is a significant proportion of the global population. Stuff is going to happen. Stuff is going to happen, and because stuff happens every single day, and some of that stuff that happens is going to be done by people who also happen to use ChatGPT. We've gone through these cycles before, like with school shootings, for example. The first early ones, they found out that, I think it was Columbine, they played Doom. So it's okay, obviously violent video games are to blame for this, and we've done this before with Dungeons and Dragons causing Satanism, etc., etc. Terrible things happen in the world, and often people are looking for something to blame. That's not to say that these tools, these technologies are blameless, but we can't make a snap judgment and immediately say, it's because of this. And we need to remember that there are 700 million other users of ChatGPT who are not taking these kind of actions. So we need to put it in that context. Unfortunately, that doesn't make for a good headline. And the newspapers and social media much prefers to go with the sensational, because it's more interesting to focus on that 1 out of 700 million rather than the other 700 million people who are just using it on a daily basis. That is not news. But we'll see what this leads to with ChatGPT, and whether the other AIs will fall into step and add additional safeguards, allowing their AIs to contact emergency contacts, for example. Is that a breach of privacy? Maybe. Is it necessary? Maybe. This is all going to be played out over the next few years. And we will settle on something that I hope will be a good compromise between safety and freedom. Emin saying, I schedule time into my planner to listen to your lives. That's very brave of you, considering how disorganized I am with my times. What time did I start today? I started at 9:45. Yeah, so I need to be better at starting at the same time. The problem is I go to things like boxing. So I'll go to boxing after this. So I need to move things around because those lessons shift to different times as well. So it's very hard to be entirely consistent. I'm also just lazy, and sometimes I'll be late in the morning. But awesome. I've been very consistent though. I've been very consistent at doing it. So one of my qualities, few qualities, is the ability to keep at something for a very long time. beyond the point where most people would just stop. Most people would just be like, oh, it's not working, I give up, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm very good at just solidly slogging along at it. Which, one of the things I used to do a lot of is long distance running, which again is very similar. It's not about speed, it's about just slogging along. Yeah, I'm thankfully good at that. That's one of my few qualities. Right, I'm going to move over to China because there's some cool stuff happening over there. The problem with all of this Chinese content, though, is the stuff we get about it in the West is not very detailed. So I speak Mandarin, but not to the level where I can read newspapers easily, especially about educational policy and artificial intelligence. So I feel that I need to get my AI up. Sorry, not my AI. I need to get my Mandarin up to a higher level so that I can read the primary sources for this, because we get it filtered through various different Western focused news sources, so we don't necessarily get the full picture. So that is another thing I need to add to my list. So we have two things happening in China right now. Both came into force yesterday, I believe. Let me just check. I think it was yesterday. Yes, yeah, both on September the 1st. So the first is AI is becoming a mandatory part of curriculums in schools for anyone above the age of 6. So the Chinese Education Authority has issued a 3-year action plan to adjust the curriculum in line with major strategic needs, interesting, focusing on urgently needed disciplines and majors targeting the nation's strategic emerging and future industries, okay, so AI, and strengthening the role of artificial intelligence in AI. So the Ministry of Education has announced on Thursday, this was a couple of weeks ago. So there's a 3-year plan and they're pushing for more engineers, more mathematicians, more computer scientists, etc., in line with the strategic needs of China. So the West does this as well. We just tend not to use this kind of language. So when we read this kind of thing, we're like, oh, wow, that's serious sounding. But we do exactly the same thing. We just don't couch it in the terms of strategic interest, because that sounds very warmongering. So this was announced. We've had rumours of this, talking about this for the last few months, but it kicked in today because the kids have gone back to school. They went back yesterday, the 1st of September, after their summer holidays. And it means they now have compulsory AI classes. So local governments are beginning to take action after Beijing said it wants all primary and secondary schools to study the advanced tech. So this is a specific school in Hangzhou in the south will introduce mandatory artificial intelligence courses for primary and secondary schools as part of a nationwide strategy to nurture talent in the rapidly growing sector. Schools will have flexibility in how they deliver the lessons. Interesting. Either by concentrating them within a single week, so you have an AI week, or integrating AI content into subjects like IT and science. So that's interesting. You have to have 10 class hours of instruction per year for all kids in China now. But it's up to the local school boards, it's up to the local schools, it's up to the teachers to work out how exactly to do that. Okay, that is very interesting. Because China is a big country. So this makes sense from the point of view of allowing the schools to tailor it to what's going to work for their setup, for their teachers, for their students. It also puts the impetus and the onus on their teachers learning how to use it, the school knowing how to use artificial intelligence and therefore how to teach it. I'm sure some people are doing very well right now going around and selling that educational content to these schools. There's hundreds of millions of school-aged children, so this is a big market for whoever is out there doing that right now. The guidelines detail content requirements and teaching methods across grade levels. In the first 2 years of primary school, students will be introduced to everyday AI applications, probably DeepSeek, it's not going to be ChatGPT, interact with basic devices and learn about the role of technology in daily life. Classes will stress the importance of responsible use with a focus on privacy. Fascinating. In the 3rd and 4th grade, students will create simple projects by using AI tools to gather text, images, and audio for schoolwork and everyday tasks. Now, how old is that? 3rd grade in America is how old? In America, it's 8 to 9. So they're using the same terminology in this article. So this means 8-year-olds will be building basic AI applications. Cool. Very cool. In the 5th and 6th grades, so that's going to be 8, 9, 10 and 11 years old, they will study AI scenarios and basic models, including decision trees and neural networks, alongside algorithms like reasoning and brute force search. Woo! Okay. So that will be layered into mathematics, I imagine, starting to teach them about machine learning. And so this is, again, this is in primary school. This is 10-year-olds and 11-year-olds before they go up to secondary or high school, or middle school if you're in America. The middle school level, students will cover the entire AI workflow from data preparation to model training to inference, while addressing real-world challenges and evaluating generative AI. In high school, the focus will shift to project-based work, where students design AI systems to develop intelligent agents, honing their ability to apply technology in daily life. Okay, cool. Extremely cool. So it sounds like they need 10 hours per student per year, which is not a huge amount, but obviously a lot more than in the West. But there is a guideline over, so starting at age, what's third grade? You can tell I don't have kids. So third grade is 8 and 9. So it starts at, no, in primary school. So it's going to start at age 6. So 6 and 7, that's when you introduce the AI application. You can tell I don't have children because I'm trying to work this out in my head. Excuse me, must have been very annoying if you have school-age children. Okay, very cool. Obviously, it only launched yesterday, and rollout will be spotty. Some, I imagine, in Beijing and in Shanghai and the big cities, the level of instruction is going to be extremely high. The more wealthy schools will be able to bring in experts, etc., etc. Whereas this is nationwide. So there are going to be more rural schools, which won't necessarily have the same level of instruction straight away. But Beijing, so the government will be helping those schools to keep up so that they can make sure all of the kids get the same education as well. Very cool, especially the importance of responsible use with the focus on privacy. I'd love to get my hands on like an actual curriculum from the school. If anyone knows anyone who works in this space, just trying to think if I know any teachers. I'd love to get a hold of that and see what it looks like and see what these kids are learning, because I think this is fascinating. I think we need to be doing something like this in the UK, in America, in Europe as well. Globally, kids need to be getting a hold of this in the same way that kids had to be taught about the internet initially when it was a new technology. Very cool. So at the same time, actually, I'll hop over to questions first. Oops, a daisy. There we go. China will win this race. Yeah. It's looking a lot like it. I was in China in April in Beijing, and I've told the story a few times, but on that trip, I used to live in Beijing, but I hadn't been back for a number of years. But while flying over, I was chatting to somebody on the plane, which was good to help me practice my Chinese before I landed. And she was from Hangzhou, which is where DeepSeek is made. And she introduced this. She said, "Oh, I'm from this city. It's the birthplace of DeepSeek." So there was a pride there. Whereas in the West, we don't have that pride. There's a lot more, I guess, more complicated feelings about artificial intelligence. Whereas in China, I felt the people I talked to, and this is purely anecdotal, they were a lot more excited about the implications of it and what could be done with AI, which, I mean, as somebody who shares that excitement, I really liked. And then I kept bumping into AI just in daily life. Like once I was in some alleyways, a hutong, looking for a noodle bar, couldn't find it. I talked to a grandma, and that's like, can you help me find this noodle bar? She had this really thick Beijing accent. If you don't know it, it's very like, it's very R. It sounds a bit piratical. It's an awesome accent. I love it. But her accent was so thick that I was really struggling to communicate with her. And at one point, she just pulled out her phone, and she didn't bring up a map or anything. She went DeepSeek, and she wrote into it. I read her Chinese afterwards. It said, "Please help this young man find this noodle bar," basically, and give it to him tell him in English, or what was it? Yeah, in his language. She put in, and it gave me directions to the noodle bar in English, and she gave it to me. And she must have been in her 70s or so. It's a technology that is being taken a lot more seriously in China, whereas in the West we are still flirting with it. It is very much embedded there. Things like really basic things, like in the big bookshops, when you go in and you see the bestsellers, you see the books that are being promoted, they were all about how to use DeepSeek and how to use artificial intelligence. And I have a few of them. I purchased a few over there. So it is very much a more popular approach. Like everybody is starting to use it, whereas we're lagging a bit in the West, let's put it that way. So yeah, they're doing very well. extremely well. I think when we get to robotics as well, that's going to be the ball game, because China has the manufacturing capability to produce robotics at a cost which allows them to become widely adopted. That's the main problem. One of the main problems in robotics is we can build really impressive things, but if it costs the same as a family car, that doesn't make it practical to use on a day-to-day basis. If you can get that down to a couple of $1,000, $500, $100, then suddenly it's, oh, okay, everyone is going to have one of these in their houses. And that is not going to happen in America. That's not going to happen in Europe. We don't have the manufacturing capability. It's going to happen in China, because for the last few decades, the West has sent all of its manufacturing over to China, which is incidentally what Trump is finding out with the tariffs. Oh, whoops. China makes quite a lot of stuff, huh? Interesting. Emin says, is it easy to add AI voice command from ChatGPT into an app? Yes. I want people to be able to edit content within an app with their voice. Yeah, so you use the... Let me pull it up. Use Whisper. What you want to Google is Whisper API. Oh, ChatGPT API. Oh, no, sorry, yeah. So you're looking for something called Whisper, which allows you to use voice commands. You can also... Let me see. So go to openai.com/API or developer. I think it's developer.openai.com. Nope, it is not. And you can get access to all of their models. Have they moved it around? Am I going mad? Platform. There we go. Platform.openai.com. And you can find all of their various different APIs. And they have voice models, and they have things like Whisper in there as well. I'm just trying to find. So the real-time API has audio. So let me have a look. Audio GPT real-time is $32 for 1 million tokens input and 40 cents for 1 million cached input tokens, or $64 for 1 million output tokens. So that's quite pricey there. But yes, it's very much doable via the API using their models. It might not be the cheapest, so you might want to look into other voice APIs. I find the people I know who build voice and video applications, they tend to run into cost problems when it comes to these API usages. So you just need to be very careful. So a lot of them have worked out clever ways using caching, for example, or using cheaper models, or trying to do as little as possible with the audio models and only using it when it's really required. But there are ways around it. But yes, you can do it. Absolutely. Emin saying it might not be doable with the cost. Yes, the cost is the main issue. Have a look at, they haven't released it yet. There's a few other voice AI APIs. You can use something like 11 Labs, but is even more expensive. There is the new Microsoft model, which got announced a few days ago. It is not out yet, but they are saying their voice model is very good. Don't know if that's true. And then what's the Google one? I'm not sure what it's called, but all of them have a voice model basically. So I would have a look at the different voice models, test them out and see which one works based on your particular needs. You can also look on artificial analysis.ai. Just pulling it up. That gives you a rundown of all the different prices. So I think you can filter by, I haven't done this before, but I think you can filter by, here we go. So what do you want? Do you want speech to text, or speech to speech? Okay, so you can search, I'll bring it up on my screen, although I'm not sure if you're on YouTube. Oh, I won't bring it up on my screen. So they have a speech to text AI model and provide a leaderboard, which has the word error rate. So right now the lowest error rate is Parakeet, apparently, followed by Scribe, Enhanced, Granite, IBM Universal, Voxtral. Oh, that's the Mistral one. The GPT-4 Transcribe is 0.09% failure, etc. Like, it has all of the metrics here. So word error rate, speed factor, price, which is USD per 1,000 minutes per audio. The cheapest again is, it's Whisper. Yeah, so using Whisper. I mean, I would, unless there's a reason not to, I'd go with Whisper, personally, would be your best. But go through artificialanalysis.ai. If you go to the top, there is a drop down which is speech, image, and video. And then from there, you can select speech to text or speech to speech, and then text to speech. And then you can find the model depending on your needs. And you can compare the word error rate, speed factor, and price. And then there is a huge amount of data that you can dig into here. But at the end of the day, you need to play around with them. You need to test how accurate they are and the cost of them all. But at least artificialanalysis.ai can help point you in the right direction and help narrow down the field, because there are tens, if not hundreds, of these models. At least you can focus on 3 or 4 and work it out from there. So hopefully that's useful. Okay. I've lost my buttons. There we go. Perfect. I don't think I'll be able to pass it on to the user with this project. Yeah, with API pricing, you have to, or you need to put in limitations. You need to, generally APIs are cheap. Considering what they do, you can deliver a huge amount of value. So this is how most AI applications work, is the fact that they are paying pennies for the API, but then they're charging dollars. So there's generally a nice bit of wiggle room. If that is not the case, then you need to increase your price, probably. But the only way you can increase your price is if the customer believes in the value of what it is you're offering. But definitely have a look at it. If you're trying to restrict the price to $20 a month, just because that's how much most SaaS applications cost, see if you can take that up to $100, see if you can take that up to $200, if it is still providing that level of value, obviously. But there's kind of it's like a 3-body problem, really, where you've got price, you've got value, you've got your cost of how much the API is costing you, and you need to balance all of those into the sweet spot that's going to allow you to get away with, is going to allow you to provide maximum value while still making a profit. The good thing is, though, all of the AI models are getting cheaper over time. So what might cost a lot now, like the real-time voice with ChatGPT, which is still pricey, that's going to come down over time. Like 6 months' time, that will be probably 10 times less costly. And yes, there'll be new models, but if we can provide the value now, if we can still provide the value using an older model, then absolutely we can do that, and we can make a larger margin on it as well. High Fruit saying, just use the inbuilt smartphone transcribe for input, 11 labs for output. Yeah, that can work, as long as you can make it clear how the users can transcribe in, and as long as their phone's transcription is good, which most of them are now, to be fair. It's more for the users to command the app with their voice, and AI will do the task instead of them actually having to manually input details. Yeah, I'd start with Whisper's going to be the go-to and the default, and if it's not Whisper, it might be something else, and you need to dig into the research. You need to research the pricing, the costs, the quality, etc. But in general, it's going to be Whisper. Hey Joy, good morning. Thank you for your nice comments on the videos recently. Hey bro, do you use GPT 4.0 or GPT 5 more often? I personally use GPT 5. I haven't had any need to go back to 4.0 after the switch. I like GPT 5. My go-to though for most things is Claude still. So I use Anthropic's Claude more than I do ChatGPT, but they both have uses really useful. I need to be more diplomatic now. But last week, I put a video out about this. Last week, I met with Lovable, which is awesome. But on the same day, ChatGPT reached out to me to become one of their influencers, like work with them as a creator. And Anthropic, the creators of Claude, reached out on the same day and, hey, do you want to be part of our influencer creator partner program? I don't know. I need to talk to them about, can I talk about both models? I assume I can. Yeah, I'm sure I can. But yesterday, I got another message, the same, which was from Microsoft saying, hey, this is Microsoft's PR team. Can we talk to you about partnering up on content and stuff like that, which is utterly bizarre. And I've said some very mean things about Microsoft's AI in the past. I need to go back and scrub that. I'm joking. I won't censor myself for these corporations, but it's genuinely the AIs I use on a daily basis are ChatGPT, and I use GPT-5. I use Claude mainly in Sonnet, just because Opus is so hungry, and I use Claude for most of my coding as well. Sometimes I use Gemini inside of Cursor, but more often I just use Claude, and I use Lovable for vibe coding. That's kind of it. It's basically 3. It's basically ChatGPT, Anthropic's, Claude, and Lovable. That's it. Because I know there's a lot of content creators and influencers out there who do, these are the top 10 tools of the day, and these are the 100 AI tools you need to use. No, there's nonsense. You need 3, 4, 5 tops. You do not need to try absolutely everything out there. You can get 99% of the value just by mastering a handful of tools instead of chasing the newest thing. It's also why I don't do many sponsorships, because people come to me and they're like, hey, we've got this new image generation, or this new companion app, or this new, I don't know, whatever model. Can we give you money to sponsor it? And I'm like, I don't use it. So no, that doesn't really make sense for me. Or sometimes I try them out and I'm like, it's fine, but I could just use one of the other apps I already use. So no, that's not going to work. Awesome. I'm going to hop over to the other piece of news from China, which is, so they've been busy this week. So China's social media platforms rush to abide by AI-generated content labeling laws. So there's a law. This isn't just a recommendation. This is a law requiring explicit and implicit labels for AI-generated text, images, audio, video, and other virtual content. Major Chinese social media platforms, including Weixin, WeChat, and Douyin, have launched new features to abide by Monday's rollout. So yesterday this came into place. I'm sure they've been working on it since before yesterday, I would hope, of a new law that mandates the labeling of all artificial intelligence generated content online. The law, which was issued back in March, so they've had 9 months to get ready, requires explicit and implicit labels for AI generated text, image, audio, videos, and other virtual content. Explicit markings must be clearly visible to users. So if you have an image, it will have AI, it will say it in the corner, while implicit identifiers, such as digital watermarkers, are embedded in the metadata. So we have in the West, so I'm using that very generally, but in our Western models, we do have implicit metadata. So for example, if you generate an image on ChatGPT, it will have in its data that it's been generated by ChatGPT, which is now when you upload to an image to LinkedIn. In LinkedIn in particular, it will say in the corner AI, because that has been pulled from the metadata inside of the image that's been generated by ChatGPT. And then when you upload it to LinkedIn, it adds a little stamp saying this has been AI generated. You can immediately remove that you could just wipe the metadata and that is suddenly gone. China's going a bit further by having explicit and implicit demarcations. So the country's top internet watchdog, the Cyberspace Administration of China, along with the Ministry of Industry and Information Technology and the Ministry of Public Security and National Radio and Television Administration, say that 5 times backwards, drafted the law. The new regulation reflects Beijing's increased scrutiny of AI as concern grows over misinformation, copyright infringement, and online fraud. All of it. And it also aligns with a broader push to tighten AI oversight, which was made a key focus of the Cyberspace Administration of China's 2025 Qinglang or Bright on Clear campaign, an annual initiative aimed at cleaning up China's cyberspace. Okay, so this is huge. The Chinese internet, we don't tend to think about that much in the West because it's in Chinese characters, so it's not really accessible. But it is the second largest separate internet after English. The majority of the internet is in English language globally, but the Chinese internet is extremely large. Obviously, there's over 1 billion people there, but it's its own ecosystem with its own software, with its own protocols, basically, and now with its own regulation of AI as well. So it'd be interesting to see if lawmakers and regulators in the West are looking at this to see how it goes and to see if there's anything that they want to borrow. I understand why it's being done. I do wonder how easy this stuff's going to be to remove, because this is always the problem with digital watermarking, with these kind of regulations, is that the people who actually want to defraud, the people who actually want to spread misinformation and cause trouble, they are the ones who are going to spend the time going around these kind of measures. And the risk there is that because the normal people are unable to remove metadata, they're unable to remove the explicit and the implicit markers, normal people will become very used to AI content being flagged. So that means that when the nefarious actors, the people who actually want to defraud you or spread misinformation, when they want to do, it's going to be a lot easier for them to do, because the public have started to trust in AI being publicly identified. So they're going to start seeing photos that don't have that AI identification and think, oh, it must be real. So these kind of projects always collapse on this hurdle, in that the people who actually want to cause trouble are going to be, again, the ones who spend the time going around it and making sure that this doesn't affect them, which actually gives them a more free rein, ironically, to spread misinformation and to commit fraud. So we will see how it goes. What I would say with both this and the initiatives in Chinese schools teaching AI to kids, is that what we're seeing, whether you agree with what they're doing or not, and whether you agree with watermarking and whether you agree with explicitly teaching kids how to use AI, they're very proactive in China. Whereas in the West, especially in the UK, we are floundering around. We know we need to do something about AI, and our government makes big noises about it. So Keir Starmer made lots of racket about, oh, we're going to be an AI first nation. We're going to spearhead AI, but nothing actually comes from it. Whereas in China, these laws were made a few months ago, and then boom, September the 1st, it's in play, and stuff actually happens. So regardless of what you think of China, regardless of what you think of the laws, are these draconian? Are these problematic? They do actually get stuff done, at least, and there is some proactivity, whereas we tend to be a lot more reactive, especially in the UK. Yeah, which I don't think is the right way to treat artificial intelligence. It is too important to be purely reactive to. I'm building a business live on TikTok in 1 hour a day. Decided on the idea yesterday and started to put together the framework today. I'm going to start making sure it actually works. And hopefully we'll have, by the end of today's hour, something that I can share with everyone, and you can actually try it out without bankrupting me on OpenAI credits. But I'll work that out in the live. But the basic idea is I'm going to be building, over the next 30 days, a new business, and I'm going to build it using AI, and I'm going to launch it and see if we can generate some cash with it. And I'm specifically only spending 1 hour per day with it because I want to show you that this is possible, and this is something you can follow along with. You can build your own thing. You can create something that can generate cash for you. Whether or not I'll make any money by the end of 30 days, I do not know. This is not planned. This is very much seat of the pants, but I think that makes it more interesting. I'm going to rue those words by the end of day 29 when I'm in tears, like, why isn't it working? But we will see. I'm sure it'll be fine. So the daily news updates and the 30-day building challenge is all going to be available over on YouTube. So YouTube's the best place to find the recordings. We also chop everything up, make them nice and easy to get access to. And there's a daily written newsletter, which you can find totally free, link in my bio, which gives you the daily updates on what's going on in the world of artificial intelligence, plus links to the specific videos. So make sure you're subscribed there as well. So yeah, 2 actions. Go and subscribe on YouTube and subscribe to the newsletter, and you'll get all of this good stuff every single day. So you don't need to be like Emin and scheduling in to see me every morning on the live, although I do very much appreciate that as well, Emin. That's really cool. Awesome. Thank you, guys. I'm giving a webinar. It's a free webinar talking about how to deliver workshops to businesses and get paid very well for doing so. The most I ever got paid for 1 hour of work is $4,000, £3,500, something like that for 1 hour. And I have students who regularly go and charge $1,000, $1,500 per hour given workshops. So I want to talk about why that is, why companies are willing to pay so much, and how you get into it, how you get over any fears you have about public speaking, what kind of level of AI knowledge you need to go and teach businesses, etc., etc. I'm going to be covering that tonight at 6 p.m. If you want to join that, there's a free webinar, and you can find the link in the bio. I am also, if you can't make Tuesday, also doing it on Thursday. So I'm going to be doing 2 this week, which is unusual, but I'm sacrificing board games. I'm not playing board games today because of this. It's very sad, but it would be lovely to see some of you on the live as well. Awesome. Thank you, guys.